bangers and potatoes, eggs, bangers and beans, fish and chips. I would have been thankful had I gotten the latter. And what I'm referring to is the food I got when I took a trip, what I thought was going to be, I was correct about, it was going to be the trip of a lifetime to the United Kingdom for New Year's. It was to be all expenses paid I had a gig out there because I DJ for a New Year's Eve party. Didn't have to spend a dime on them. The plane ticket, lodging, food, drinks, whatever. It was all spoken for. It was only going to be for 2 evenings, so it was a really quick stay, 48 hours. And it was right after I had gotten back from an extended stay in South Carolina, visiting the girlfriend's parents, which was about a week, not the most relaxing vacation. So I was hoping for the best, hoping it was going to be a nice blowout of steam. So I was about to embark, on the trip of a lifetime, and I thought it was going to be just the greatest thing, which it was in some respects, but you never know what you're going to get once you're on the ground. So I go to O'Hare, I get through, all the airport shenanigans, and I have a long wait in the international terminal, which is fine. I was, excited and jazzed to go out there. So I eventually get on the plane, the flights were in the air, excitement's building, even though it's an incredibly long flight. About halfway through, when we're starting to clean up from snacks and all that, we hit some really horrible turbulence, over the middle of the Atlantic. And I've flown a lot over the years. That usually doesn't bother me at all, and it didn't at first until I started to see the panic looks on the flight attendants' faces, which is the last thing I want to see when I'm over the middle of an ocean, and just a flying thing of metal. But they started panicking and hurrying up and scurrying down the aisles and making everybody sit down and trying to clean everything up. Eventually that subsided, which I was relieved about. I thought maybe I could get some sleep, but I was unfortunately seated next to 2 really loud Europeans. Eventually they quieted down, and the guy next to me went to sleep, but unfortunately he's doing that on me for about an hour or 2. A little bit of back pain came to be toward the end of the trip when he finally woke up. But eventually I touched ground. I was excited, it's over. The excitement of touching down really started to, take over me. But I didn't know that my path of problems was just beginning and wouldn't end until I was back on American soil. So I touched down in Manchester. I go through customs. It took longer than it ever has been going anywhere else. They even pulled me aside and asked me more questions. I guess I'm the suspect individual. Might have been the 2-day thing. Maybe they thought I was a mule or something. But so I eventually get through customs, and I'm going down to the turnstile. Nobody's really left, and I find one of my bags, which is my bag of records, and I didn't find my bag of clothes. So I had to go through the whole process of reporting that and talking to them about it. Eventually, I get through that, and I walk through the doors, and the first thing I see is 2 police officers with automatic rifles just walking, which I wasn't really used to seeing automatic weapons literally about 5 feet in front of me when I turn a corner, so that was a little jarring. So I go looking for my friend. He's nowhere to be found. I call his office. He's not picking up, and mind you, I'm already late getting through everything because of all the problems I had. I wait around for about an hour and a half, not hearing a word. He finally shows up, hungover. This guy's in his 40s. So it's a little ridiculous, and he's like a businessman, so it was a little unexpected. So we eventually start driving from Manchester to Rugby, which is where his office is, and the place is actually the birthplace of the sport. So we were going down there. It was a while, more commute, which was fine. It was nice to see, all the a lot of country homes and just a lot of open spaces. It was really nice. It was relaxing. We eventually stopped and get some food at what I would best describe as a Walmart, because I had to get underwear and socks and things like that. So that was a little bit of money I did have to spend, was buying some, emergency supplies. So I met with, bangers, runny eggs, and bacon, which is a rasher, which really isn't bacon at all. It's like a fatty, thin, tough piece of ham. Is the best way I can describe it. It's not bacon. But eventually we end up in Rugby. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And I'm greeted by this really odd Canadian woman, Victoria, who I didn't know was going to be staying in the same place as me and everything. And she was middle-aged and everything, which I don't have a problem with at all, but she was very odd, hard to talk to. I know all these people through an internet community through the DJing stuff. We all have an internet stream, and so she knew a lot more about me than I knew about her, which was really weird for me. I eventually decided to, like, they recommend, oh, you want to rest a little bit? I'm like, yes. So I locked myself in my room for a little bit, and I napped, and I read to get away from it and to ground myself for the rest of the night. Eventually my friends came over, the rest of them, we got to meet, we had a good time. We had pizza for dinner, because the fish and chips place was closed. And the pizza was the most bland pizza that I've ever had in my life. In fact, I would say they probably boiled the pizza too, because it just lacked any kind of flavor. We eventually get to the lounge, we play, it's a decent crowd. It was a little less than normal because they just passed anti-smoking laws and a lot of people stayed in that year. But all in all, it was great. The staff was excellent. The owner loved it. My friends were there. There was enough people where it was enjoyable. Didn't necessarily appreciate the bouncers because they liked me as an American, but they thought all other Americans were trash and stupid. And the women were whores because all they had been exposed to was spring break. So so these beefcake bouncers who are trash talking America, but you're cool. That didn't rub me the right way. So as we're going home, there was still a party going on at the corner bar, and they're having a USA themed party. So I hear like Miss American Pie coming from the corner, and all these drunk people from the UK wearing cowboy hats. So I got another glimpse into what they think about us. So we went back to the office and partied till dawn, mixing records on the internet live. New York Day was a slow start. Everything was closed. Rugby's not the biggest place. My friend was MIA, so I'm stuck again in this like house area with this woman that I'm not really jiving with. All my other friends had left already, so that was kind of awkward. But eventually, my friend showed up, and I'm like, "I ate food," and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a great dinner for you." It took about 6 hours to make, and it was bland sausage and potatoes. I don't know why that should have taken 6 hours. But we played records, and he brought me a crate of Belgian beer, and I really like European beers. So that was probably one of the highlights of my trip, was that crate. Stuff you really can't get over here. And he's just like, have at it. So we did that, went to the pubs, which is excellent. Eventually I got a little bit more sleep, but that was only about 4 hours worth. And right before I went to bed, they brought my bags to me. So as I'm going to bed late, after having, countless high gravity beers, like, here's your bags, you're gonna leave in 4 hours. So we drive back to the airport, my friend drops me off, say our goodbyes, and I'm waiting for my flight. Push back, waiting more, push back again, waiting some more. Eventually by this time, I'm hungover, I'm tired, I've been traveling, no clean clothes, no nothing. I'm literally freaking out, going insane because of their accents at this point. I can't stand their faces. I was thirsty and I had no money to begin with. I was broke at the time, and you have to pay for water. I can't even find a water fountain, to get a drink of water, and I'm just about to lose it, and then they tell me my flight's canceled. So I had to spend an extra day in Manchester. Got to stay in a hotel. I decided to go to the airport and start smoking again. So I bought a pack of cigarettes and drank Guinnesses at the bar, and that was okay. It's funny, the one saving grace about it was that I ran into an old couple from Canada, a school teacher from Illinois, and another American, and they were the only people that would actually hold an extended conversation with me, and they were very friendly. Which was kind of disappointing for me because I've gone other places and that hasn't necessarily been the case. So the UK kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and it wasn't just the food. But eventually all that passed. I got to fly back to the States. I had a good time. The food may have been bland. Some of the people may have been bland, but my friends were great. The beers were excellent. And the music was incredible as well. Sometimes going abroad exposes you to experiences and broadens your horizons, but other times it'll make you appreciate even more what you had before. My friends don't know
Yeah.
that I did for the actual synopsis of the trip.